New York City's new socialist mayor wants to give you free buses and cheap groceries, but the bill is coming due, and the math just doesn't look good.
No, it really doesn't.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at a city right on the edge.
It's basically the classic case of unstoppable political promises slamming into this immovable economic wall. And right now, that collision looks incredibly expensive.
I'll say. Let's set the scene for everyone so you know what we're looking at. It is Friday, February 20, 2026. Mayor Zohran Mamdani has released his preliminary budget. And folks, I've seen some big numbers in my time, but this?
It's historic.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in a good way. The budget proposal sits at $127 billion. For context, that is a massive jump from former Mayor Eric Adams's $115 billion budget.
Right. That is a $12 billion increase in spending. But here's the thing that really confuses me. I'm looking at the revenue projections in these reports, and the city is facing a projected deficit between $5.4 billion and $12.6 billion.
Which is a gaping hole.
Right. You don't usually spend more when you're broke.
Well, you usually don't. But Mamdani has a proposed solution to fill it, and it relies entirely on aggressive taxation. He wants to hike the corporate tax rate from 9% to 11.5%. And for individuals, he wants to slap an extra 2% income tax on
millionaires.
Exactly.
Right, the tax the rich strategy. We hear it all the time. But here is the kicker. He can't just sign a piece of paper and make that happen, can he?
No. He needs permission from Albany, he needs the state legislature, and, crucially, Governor Hochul to sign off. And the governor has promised, strictly on the record, that she will not raise taxes in 2026.
So we have a standoff. If the governor holds the line and says no, what is his plan B? Because that $12 billion has to come from somewhere.
That is where it gets scary for the average New Yorker, specifically homeowners. If he can't tax the millionaire's income, he is threatening a 9.5% property tax hike.
9.5%.
Yes.
That gets passed on to everyone. Homeowners, renters, small businesses.
Exactly. And it gets worse. He also wants to raid the city's rainy day fund and the retiree health benefits trust.
Wait, let me get this straight. He wants to drain the emergency savings account and the retire fund during a time of economic growth.
Yes.
That sounds like what you do when the ship is already sinking, not when you're just launching a new agenda.
And that is exactly what State Controller DiNapoli and fiscal watchdogs are saying right now. They are sounding the alarm. They say this is risky behavior that could tank the city's credit rating.
Wow.
It is basically using a high-interest credit card to pay off your mortgage. Once that credit rating drops, borrowing money for bridges, schools, and roads gets way more expensive.
Okay, so we have a socialist mayor with a massive spending list and no clear way to pay for it without hurting the middle class or crashing the city's credit. But before we get to the solution, and the sources have a really surprising one, I want to drill down on this tax the rich idea.
Yeah.
Mamdani keeps saying the rich got a huge windfall from the federal government, right?
He does. His entire argument rests on the claim that the Trump-era One Big Beautiful Bill Act gave New York millionaires about $129,600 a year in savings. He calls it a windfall that he needs to claw back.
That is a very specific number. But is it true? I mean, did they actually get that money?
No. The reports show it is factually wrong, and the Empire Center has the data to prove it. Mamdani is ignoring one massive detail, which is the SALT cap.
The SALT cap. We hear this term a lot, but let's actually unpack it for the listeners. What does that mean for the guy making $1 million in Manhattan?
Think of the SALT deduction, the state and local tax deduction, as a discount coupon from the federal government. Before 2017, if you paid high taxes to New York City and state, say $100,000, you could deduct that money from your federal tax bill.
Okay, so you aren't paying taxes on the money you already paid in taxes.
Exactly. It softened the blow of living in a high-tax state. But the 2017 tax law capped that deduction at just $10,000.
Oh.
Right. So for a millionaire in New York, their state taxes are way higher than 10 grand. So even though the federal tax rate dropped slightly, they lost this massive deduction.
So their taxable income actually went up.
Significantly. The Empire Center data found that in 2022, New York millionaires paid nearly $2 billion more in federal taxes compared to the pre-2017 rules.
$2 billion more. So there is no windfall.
There is no windfall. Their effective tax rate actually went up. The rate went from 27.8% in 2017 to 28.1% in 2018. Mamdani is trying to claw back money that they literally never received.
That seems like a dangerous game. You can keep squeezing a lemon that's already dry. What happens?
The lemon leaves.
Right.
We call it capital flight. New York's share of the U.S. millionaire population dropped from 12.7% in 2010 to just 8.7% in 2022. That is a massive drop.
People are just voting with their feet.
They are packing up, and when they leave, they take their tax revenue with them. If you raise taxes on a shrinking base of rich people, eventually you just run out of money.
And it's not just the millionaires. He wants to raise corporate taxes, too. I always hear people say, well, big corporations can afford it.
Which brings us to a concept called tax incidence. When you tax a corporation, they don't just absorb the loss out of the goodness of their hearts. They pass it on.
So who pays?
You do. The consumer. That extra tax becomes a more expensive latte at Starbucks. It becomes higher prices at the grocery store. Or the company simply hires fewer people.
So the tax on the corporation is actually a hidden tax on me buying a sandwich.
Often, yes. And usually there are guardrails to stop a city from spending itself into oblivion. We have the Financial Control Board, which exists to stop the city from going bankrupt like it did in 1975.
Right, the 1970s. We don't want to go back there.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
But the fiscal watchdogs point out that these guardrails have turned into tissue paper. The Financial Control Board only works if the state legislature activates it. And right now, with a leftist legislature, they are unlikely to stop Mamdani.
So the brakes are cut. Let's talk about what he wants to spend this money on. Two big things that sound great on a bumper sticker: free buses and city-run grocery stores.
Let's start with the buses. He wants to make them free to lower the cost of living.
Which sounds nice. Saving a $3 fare adds up for a working family.
But free costs the taxpayers about $800 million annually. And the Manhattan Institute did an analysis on this. They found that the $3 fare isn't the main reason people are frustrated.
It's not the cost.
No, it's reliability and speed. New York transit costs are actually comparable to or even cheaper than Boston, Chicago, or D.C. commuter rails. The real danger of making it free is the unintended consequences.
Like what?
If there is no fare, the bus system can quickly turn into mobile homeless shelters.
Mobile shelters.
Yes. Without a fare barrier, safety degrades. And the paying commuters, the people trying to get to work, stop using the service. So you spend nearly $1 billion to create a worse service.
That backfires completely.
Yeah.
You drive away the exact people you're trying to help. What about the grocery stores?
Yeah.
Mamdani wants the government to run supermarkets.
He wants a network of stores seeking low prices, not profit.
The government running a business rarely ends well.
Especially grocery. It is a low-margin, high-volume business. Without the immense buying power of a Walmart or a regional chain, the expert analysis shows the city will lose massive amounts of money it simply doesn't have.
They can't negotiate the same deals on milk and eggs.
Exactly. It's a recipe for financial disaster.
So to recap our sources so far, the tax plan is based on a myth, the rich are leaving, and the spending plans are likely to create chaos and debt. It sounds pretty bleak.
It does. But we aren't just going to look at the problems today. We are going to pivot to a fascinating constructive agenda. There is a report from the Manhattan Institute by Eric Kober that offers Mamdani a very surprising way out.
A way out.
Yes, a way for a socialist mayor to fix the housing crisis and help the working class by doing the exact opposite of what you'd expect, by embracing market forces, not fighting them.
I love a good pivot. So, Mamdani is broke. He can't get his taxes passed. How does he use the free market to save his agenda?
The premise is straightforward. Since he has no money, he needs to lower costs through deregulation. He needs to use his power to break the not in my backyard or NIMBY coalitions.
NIMBYs. We hear about them stopping construction all the time.
Right. Kober says Mamdani needs to distinguish between regulations that actually protect people and regulations that just protect special interests, like wealthy preservationists or car owners.
Let's look at specific housing solutions. What is one of the biggest hidden costs in building?
Parking mandates.
Parking. Really?
Currently, zoning laws force developers to build parking garages even if they don't want to. Digging a giant hole for cars in New York City drives up the cost of housing tremendously.
And developers pass that cost on.
Yes. That cost gets baked into the rent. So the fix is to eliminate off-street parking requirements. Now think about Mamdani. He hates cars anyway.
Right, he's very anti-car.
So he should use that bias. Eliminate the parking mandate. Commercial parking requirements outside Manhattan are impossibly high, leaving lots completely empty. Repealing this, like Chicago and Illinois recently did, frees up land for housing and makes it cheaper to build.
That actually makes total sense. He gets fewer cars, and the market builds cheaper housing. It doesn't cost the taxpayers a single dime.
Precisely. Now, let's look at those grocery stores again. We said the city-run stores are a bad idea. But do you know why food is so expensive in some neighborhoods?
Tell me.
Current zoning limits stores in M zones, which are manufacturing zones, to 10,000 square feet. But modern supermarkets need 40,000 square feet or more to be efficient.
Why is there a cap?
To protect special interests. The fix is to lift the cap and allow big, cheap regional chains to open.
But wait, wouldn't that open the door to non-union stores, like Walmart?
That is the catch. It absolutely challenges Mamdani's pro-union stance. But if his actual goal is to lower food prices for the poor, letting a big chain open is the fastest way to do it, unlike his city-run store idea.
Because they have the scale to offer the low prices. It really is a choice between ideology and pragmatism.
There's also a huge case study in Queens, the College Point area.
I know the area.
You have a former airport site sitting empty, while right across the street are massive parking lots for retail.
And we have a housing shortage.
Exactly. Kober points out that if you rezone these non-priority industrial areas for housing, thousands of units could be built right on those parking lots.
Just build apartments on the asphalt. Why hasn't this happened before?
Local politics. Historically, the city council lets local members veto zoning changes. It was called member deference.
So one local politician could stop housing for thousands of people.
Yes. But 2025 city charter amendments shifted power to the mayor. Mamdani can now push through zoning changes that Adams or de Blasio just couldn't.
So he has the power to steamroll the NAMBYs.
He does. And the report outlines a specific fast track for housing called R5D zoning.
R5D, what does that mean for a neighborhood?
It is a zoning code for small apartment buildings up to 45 feet high. The new charter allows modest changes like R5D to bypass the city council approval process entirely.
Bypass the council entirely.
Yes. Mamdani can map this over single-family neighborhoods, which make up 15% of NYC land. This allows two-family homes and granny flats without a massive political fight or an environmental impact statement.
That is huge.
There.
He could just end single-family zoning by fiat.
It gets government out of the way to let the market build. But there's one more trap we have to discuss. Midtown Manhattan.
Okay, what is happening in Midtown?
State law now allows denser buildings there, up to 18 FAR, which stands for floor area ratio.
Okay, so taller buildings, we want more units.
We do. But the trap is, if you build over 12 FAR, you must include affordable housing.
Why is that a trap? We want affordable housing.
Because of the tax laws and prevailing wage requirements for large projects, these projects are often financially impossible. The affordable mandate kills the whole project.
So developers just won't build anything.
Exactly, you get zero housing. The pragmatic fix the Manhattan Institute suggests is to allow developers to build up to 12 FAR purely as market rate. No affordable mandate. So some housing gets built rather than zero housing.
So you get market rate condos, but at least you get supply. And supply lowers pressure on the rest of the market.
Exactly. It's better to have new housing than an empty lot just because the regulations demanded too much.
This really is a catch-22 for Mamdani.
It is. His tax and spend plan is blocked by the governor and the economic reality of the SALT cap. His deficit is ballooning past $5.4 billion.
So he faces a choice.
Yes. He can either crash the economy with property tax hikes and depleted reserves, or he can embrace this supply-side approach. Deregulate parking, rezone manufacturing areas, and let developers build.
He basically has to get government out of the way to achieve his goals of affordability.
That is the irony here.
It really is. Mamdani campaigned as a socialist to fight the power. But to actually lower rents, his best move might be to let the free market build the city. Will ideology win, or will pragmatism? But consider this for a moment. If he does deregulate and the free market steps in and the city actually thrives, does that redefine what modern socialism looks like for the next generation? Or does it just prove the free market was right all along? Something to mull over.
It's a great question.
Thanks for joining us as we unpack the numbers and the future of NYC. We will see you on the next Deep Dive.